See, that story that you just talked about, it's
Hmm.
very, very well known and misinformed in our community. Misconception was like it's a black people disease. So
Okay.
because it's very prevalent, like in the Caribbean and in Africa and other places where people from Africa.
Welcome to the Green Table Talk, where we will have open and honest discussion about transplant. I'm your host, Janine Johnson. Welcome to the Green Table Talk. I am your host, Janine Johnson. Today we have my friend Ulysses joining us today. Hi, Ulysses. Thank you for being here.
Hi Janine, happy to be here.
Excellent. So now we are here to talk about sickle cell, and you are going to educate us on sickle cell, what it is, etc. So I know you were born with sickle cell. How old were you when you were officially diagnosed with sickle cell?
I was diagnosed at the age of 2. So when I was born, like my parents, like they saw sign that I wasn't well, and I've been, they were going to doctors and to the hospital multiple times, and they couldn't find out what was wrong with me. And previously, I have an older sibling that passed away um, at at the age of 7 months. So
Mm.
because of that, my mom was always like, kind of feel like looking at the signs and see the similarities between my sister that passed away and myself. And
Do you know what some of the signs were that you might have been kind of keeping
so
an
like
eye on?
I was crying a lot
Mm.
as a baby, and there was like a swelling of the joints, my fingers, um, like my hand will be swollen. Those were the signs that they saw at a young age. And when my parents from Haiti, and they
Hmm.
went on vacation, and then I had a crisis there, and that's why I got diagnosed when I was 2.
Also in Haiti, you were diagnosed. Okay.
Mhm.
And at that time, I'm assuming, obviously at that time, technology and medicine has not evolved as much as it has now. So at that time, do you know what they suggested? Were there anything they prescribed, or what was the process?
Ironically, when I was young, so I was born in Toronto, and so I was going to sick kids and all the different hospital in Toronto, and they were misdiagnosis me. Like they were telling my parents like it will be like colic, it will be like growing pains. They give
Mm.
like all the all kind of different diagnosis but sickle cell. So
Hmm.
when my parents went to Haiti with us, because the population is multi-ethnic, and there's a lot of black people in Haiti, so they were familiar with sickle cell. So I guess when the doctors saw the signs that I exhibited, they did the blood work, and then it came out that I had sickle cell beta thalassemia.
Now,
And
why do you think there was like misdiagnosis here? Like, I mean, if I know growing up, I've always been told that the medical system here is better than the Caribbean. It's better than, you know what I mean? So why is it that you think in Haiti it was picked up instantly, and here those signs are just missed and it was dismissed as colic or growing pains instead?
well, it's hard to say, but I would say like overall, like sickle cell is it's an illness that the misconception was like it's a black people disease.
Okay.
So because it's very prevalent, like in the Caribbean and in Africa and other places where like people from African descent are
Hmm.
there, and it's because of like basically to make a long story short, sickle cell originated from it's a way that the body, um, how can I say that, it's a way the body created it, some kind of defense mechanism. I don't have the right methodology
It's
to
okay.
explain it,
It's okay.
but it's basically like it's a transformation of the body to fight malaria. So
Okay.
it's basically part of evolution in some kind of way. So in the region where malaria was killing a lot of people,
Hmm.
over time, like evolution mutation. That's the word I was looking for. So
Okay.
the body mutated in a way for the red blood cell to have that shape where
Hmm.
malaria couldn't impact us as much. So because of that, you would find traces of sickle cell around the globe. Wherever
Hmm.
malaria was prevalent, you will see quite a
Gotcha.
lot of cases of sickle cell disease. That's
And
the reason
yeah.
why in the Caribbean, people were familiar with sickle cell because it's
Hmm.
been there for a long time. In North America, well, the population at the time in the 70s, there wasn't a lot of people of color in the country. I would say, in majority, like the way it is now.
Hmm.
So they didn't put the emphasis in terms of illnesses that affected Black people back then.
Hmm.
That'll be my rationale behind that.
And they probably didn't see that often here as well, even though it is,
Yeah.
like you said, it's, prevalent within, Black people. They probably didn't see a lot of that here. And they're probably just used to, taking care of babies that are colic or, like you said, just, going through growing pains. So they just dismissed it as that as well, perhaps, right?
Yeah.
So explain to us, what is sickle cell? I mean, you just said that it's a defense mechanism, but is it something that's hereditary? Is it something that, you can just pick up? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So sickle cell disease is a red blood cell disorder. So that affect the hemoglobin. So basically, the normal red cell look like an oval, like let's say a donut without the hole,
Hmm.
and a sickle cell look like a croissant. So
Okay.
what happened is like when the red cell goes to the vessels, it blocks the circulation, and there's no oxygen that the red cell not able to carry oxygen into the body, and that's what created the pain that we have. That's the symptoms that affect most people of sickle cell disease. It's a lot of pain because of lack of oxygen going to different region on our body. So
Mm.
wherever we have blood circulated, we can have what we call a crisis. So essentially like a blockage, lack of oxygen, and that region started to die because they don't have oxygen to for that region in the body. The body
Hmm.
require oxygen. The body it require a lot of fluids, and
Hmm.
that's the blood become like viscous because very like slushy, so
Okay.
that makes it very hard to circulate. So
Hmm.
that's the number one symptoms of sickle cell
Okay.
disease.
Now, how has that affected your life? Going through all the different symptoms of sickle cell, and does everybody experience the same type of symptoms, or?
Well, there's different type of sickle cell disease. Everybody experience it a little different. Um, I say most people the common denomination that we have is pain because
Mhm.
that's how it manifests the most. But some people the level of sickle hemoglobin that they have in the system could be more than others. So in my case, I had more sickle hemoglobin, so I will have more crisis than somebody that has less.
Mhm.
There's also what we call people that carry the gene, meaning they have the trait. So people that carry the gene, they don't have symptoms in majority of the time, and they can go through life without symptoms and carry a normal life. And what happens is like somebody that it's important for people to know their status, so that way if you carry the gene, if you are in a relationship with somebody that also carry the gene, there's a potential that you guys can have children, and
Gotcha.
it's 1 out of 4 chances out of every pregnancy that you
Mm.
can have a child with sickle cell disease.
Okay. Okay. Now, how do you manage the symptoms, or can
Um,
you manage the symptoms?
we can to some degree, I'll say it's a lot of pain management. It's through a lot of pain medication such as narcotics like morphine,
Mm.
hydromorphone, fentanyl, um, methadone. There's different type
Mhm.
of narcotics that they can give to help with the pain,
Okay.
and each person depending on how it affects them. Some people they take morphine, some people take hydromorphone, some people take uh, um, fentanyl, etc., oxycodone, all kind of
Mhm.
different narcotics. So some
Mhm.
people are some people like there's a medication that works for them. Some people there's other medication that works for them. So that's what
Okay.
makes it kind of like difficult to
Hmm.
manage in terms of like the healthcare professional in that sense, because you cannot make it like one size fits all to for
Yes.
individuals living with sickle cell, and
Hmm.
that's usually where we we hit the trouble in
Hmm. Hmm.
the healthcare providers, right? So it's difficult for them to put that unique way of dealing with somebody as an individual, instead of
Hmm.
doing like that one size fit all. When you go to
Yes.
the hospital, that's what's usually the one of the challenges that we face.
Mm, okay, okay. Now you mentioned previously that there's something, it's called a crisis that you go through. Now, when you do go through a crisis, is that something that you have to rush to the hospital for? Are you hospitalized, or is something that you typically manage on your own? Like, how does a crisis work?
So well, now I'm in my 40s, so I'm well aware of my body. I'm well aware of what I need to do to make sure that I can manage my crises at home.
Okay.
But on a regular basis, I would say that it depends on the level of pain that you have, and how you
Hmm.
can manage it with the medication that you're taking at home. And sometimes that medication that you're taking is no longer working. So at
Mm,
that point, you need to go to the hospital because you need something stronger. And unfortunately, you're not able to carry those things at home. So you need
yes.
like IV medication. Um, those are the things that will be effective at that time.
Hmm.
And also we also need to be monitored, like
Hmm.
medically. So it's I guess the best way I can answer that question, it depends on how the severity of the pain, uh, the way you manage it, the way you feel it. So let's use that example from 0 to 10. um, on average, I can manage like pain from 0 to 6, right?
Okay.
So if my pain gets to like from 7 or higher, at that point I need to go to the hospital,
Gotcha.
because the medication that I'm taking on a regular basis is no longer effective, and I need something stronger. And I also need to be monitored, because there could be some other thing that is in effect, and that I might not be aware,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
everything is internal. So there's nothing that you could see. Like let's say somebody, as an example, has cancer. You could see like they go to chemo, they lose their hair, etc. So there's certain physical attribute that you can attach to certain illness. But with sickle cell, we can't. There's no real physical
Hmm.
attribute besides like the jaundice of the eyes. That's
Okay.
pretty much the only thing that you could actually see that physically.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. So I'm being educated right now as you share your journey with us. So I don't know if this will sound like a crazy question or not, but since it's something to do with red blood cells, would a blood transfusion help in any way, shape, or form? Like if you were to go to the hospital and have some type of blood transfusion, maybe once or twice a month. I don't know how that would work, but does that help in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, definitely. So
Okay.
depending on the person, like it's a case to case basis. Some people they go to their life, having sickle cell, and they just take some pain medication from time to time when they have crisis. Um, they're able to live their life without having to go to emergency hospital
Hmm.
for crisis, like for a long period of time. Some people, like they were born, and then from the time that they were born till adulthood, they always been going to the hospital. They always had crisis.
Hmm.
So part of the regimen to manage the sickle cell crisis, to reduce the amount of crisis, you can have like regular blood transfusion. There's different type. They could do like a straight transfusion. They usually do that in cases like you go to emerge, and then hemoglobin is very low, and then there's other symptoms and other complication that happens, and they give you a blood transfusion. There's one way. There's also what they call phlebotomy, which is like an exchange transfusion, but it's done manually. So that
Hmm.
means like you go in, they remove some of your fluid, some of your blood,
Hmm.
and then they'll give you fluids, and then they'll give you blood transfusion. So by removing the blood, they're able to manage the amount of iron that we're receiving, because when we're receiving blood on a regular basis, we can get what they call iron overload. So too much,
Okay.
like an excess iron in our system, and
Hmm.
that could be potentially fatal. I will come to that part. And there's another one that's called apheresis, And apheresis, it's an exchange transfusion, but it's done um, electronically, like through a machine. Like it's
Okay.
similar to dialysis. So
Hmm.
you're plugged into a machine, and then whether you have a port or whether they go to your vein directly, so they remove a portion of your blood, some of the plasma, and then goes to the machine, and then the machine separates the blood, give you back the plasma, remove the abnormal red cells, and then give you blood from the donors.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that could varies. Like on average, I would say for me, like I do regular blood exchange, which
Hmm.
they call apheresis, and I go on a monthly basis. So
Okay.
every 4 weeks I go for treatment, and at that point I get on average about 9 to 10. Sorry, from 12 to 14 bags of blood, depending
Hmm.
on 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 the levels of the hemoglobin S, and there's different
Hmm.
markers that they look at, and so on average I would say like I get about 9 bags. So just to give you an idea, when a donor give blood, they on average they take 2 bags.
Hmm.
So for me, I take on average 9 bags.
Wow.
So basically, it takes me on average like 4 donors to give me
Hmm.
one treatment
My
per month.
goodness.
So this is why it's important for people like me that we receive blood and we ask for the population, specifically people of African descent, to donate blood,
Hmm.
because in our community there's a really low amount of people that's donating blood, and
Hmm.
we are dependent on blood from the
Hmm.
general public, but also from people of our background, because we get less issues with the blood in terms of
Hmm.
like rejecting the blood, having reaction to the blood, and things of that nature. So it's very important, and it's very vital. Like like as an example, like um, for people of our background, like we're not familiar with blood donation, with donation in general, in terms of like
Hmm.
whether it's for transplant purposes, etc. So it's we need that education, and we also need to know that it's something that affects all of us.
Yes,
You cannot,
definitely. Blood
you never
donation is
know,
it's very
you never know when
important.
it can happen. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why do you think that there's that hesitation in the ACB community to donate, whether it's blood, whether it's an organ, what do you think we're
Um,
hesitant?
I think the first part of it is because of lack of information, in terms
Okay.
of like we weren't aware, and we weren't conditioned to donate blood. In our culture, blood donation wasn't something that we were used to.
Hmm.
Specifically, like, as an example, like in the Caribbean and in Africa, we didn't have the technology to do blood exchange, or to do blood, just a blood transfusion, simple blood transfusion, in like back in the day, because of issues with the blood, how we screen the blood, etc. So
Mm.
because of some of the experiences of people that went through this process, kind of like let some kind of trauma in those people. Let's say you went and you donated blood, and then you
Hmm.
gave blood to somebody, whether it's your family, etc., and then the person wasn't compatible with the blood, and then they got a reaction or something like that. So
Mm.
it will leave like
That
some
bad
kind of
taste in your
effect on
mouth. You
you.
don't want to. You want to
Exactly.
donate again because you figured, okay, well, it's obviously a sham or it doesn't work or something of the sort, right?
Exactly. So that's one part of it. The
Hmm.
another component of it is also culture. Um, like some of us, like with the religious background, blood donation, it's something that is viewed to be um,
Frowned upon. It's something that we just don't do, right?
yeah,
It's yeah.
but there's a connotation in terms of like religiously, that it's not a good thing to do. So
Hmm. Hmm.
which is like a misinformation that needs to be it's the stigma that we need to break.
Yes.
um
And it's
so
the same thing with organ donation too, by the way, because I hear a lot of people saying, I came here with these organs. I'm going to go right back with these organs. There's no need
yeah,
to donate it.
there you
This
go.
is what I have. This is what I was blessed with,
Yeah.
and I don't need to share it. I came with it. I'm going to die with it. I'm going to take it back, which
And then
is another. misconception
Even
because
that concept that God get like God created me that way, so
yes.
God didn't create me to give my blood or to give my organ to somebody
Hmm.
else. That's
Yes.
one aspect that's really really very high
Yes.
in the stigma, for our community. And there's
Hmm.
also the mistrust with the healthcare system, where there were you know a lot of mishandle of certain things. As an example,
Hmm.
the Tuskegee experiment that they did with
Mm.
black people, where
Hmm.
you always hear, and this is something that I know that happened for a fact, as
Yes.
an example, in Haiti, where they do trafficking, where they will traffic young kids or young adults for their organs and things of that nature.
Mm.
So when you hear some of those horrific stories, it does create that kind of fear that you don't
Yeah.
want to have nothing to do with that.
It scares you.
Yeah.
It definitely scares you. So
So
basically, we
there's a lot
go
of
ahead.
trust building that needs to happen in the healthcare system with our
Hmm.
community, because we've been um, um, I guess mishandled, for lack of better words, a lot,
Hmm.
in the past. And then there's a history of us being mistreated in so many levels. So
Hmm.
I would tell you that's probably number three on all the reasons
Hmm.
why this is something that affect us so much.
And there's a lot of old wives' tales too. Like if you, in the Caribbean, I know when I was going through my transplant journey and looking for an organ, looking for a kidney, you hear, well, I heard that Auntie Susie said to Jackie that they tried to donate, but then when she went to donate, she found out there's a room full of organ, like all these different, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, like these stories that are completely not true, but
Yeah.
because people love drama. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? People
Exactly.
love the drama and the, oh my gosh, did you hear this and did you hear that? So that's another, reason why people choose not to donate or whether it's blood or what have you, because they hear stories from so many different people. They
Yeah.
tend to think it's true that, oh, and when they take your organ, once they take your kidney, they don't even take care of you on the operating room table. They rush off and give it to this next person and you're just there, cut wide open. And it's
There
like,
you go. You see that story that you just talked about? It's
mm-hmm.
very, very well known and misinformed in our community, in a sense
Yes.
of they would say if you sign the
Organ donor
donation
card.
form, right, the
Mm-hmm.
donor card, if you sign that, if something happens to you, the first
Mm-hmm.
thing
Go
that they'll
ahead.
do, they'll let
Mm-hmm.
you die, they'll
Yep.
take your organ to give it to somebody else.
That's what I
Well,
heard too.
literally, this is false, because the is it called the Hippocratic Oath? Like the
Hippocratic oath.
doctors can
Yes.
literally they have to do everything that's in their power
Do
to
no
keep you
harm.
alive, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then whatever happens after that, there's a next level. But yeah, that's that. It's like you call it like wives' tale or whatever the
Yep.
word
Little
you want to
lifestyles.
use.
Yep. The people
It's
just take that and they run with it. They believe it's
Yeah,
gospel, and that's what it is. Or it must be true, or
and this
they'll.
they saw that in movies too.
Yes.
That's the thing. It's it's been perpetrated in movies, that
Hmm.
organ trafficking, and different things that happen to. So that's another thing that I think, by seeing it in movies and in media and things of that nature, be,
Hmm.
giving the right information in those outlets, it will also help to change that, all those narrative and all those stigmas, right?
And for the record, I saw that in the season finale of the season finale of a medical show that I watched. I'm not going to call any names, but that's exactly what happened. There's this, a little boy who was dying, and there's this other person, and that other person's sick, and they're kind of like, should we take it? And but it's a little boy, and he has so much to live for, and that's it's they gave it to the little boy, right? So that doesn't help with the
Do you remember
scenario.
do you remember the movie John Q?
Yeah,
In
yeah, yeah.
John
John Q.
Q
Yep,
with
with
Denzel
Denzel
Washington.
Washington.
Yeah, you
Yes.
remember all the it went far to the point where it needed to do to be able
Hmm.
to get an organ for his son.
Yes. Yes.
So all those things, create that trauma in our community's
Hmm.
brain, that we are mishandled. There's one
Yes.
thing
And
I also wanted to address, we people with sickle cell, everywhere we have blood, we can have issues, in terms of when it comes to organ failure.
hmm.
Some of the organs that affect people with sickle cell, the first one is our liver,
Okay.
because of like I was telling you, we get a lot of transfusion for some of
Hmm.
us, and when you get regular transfusion like that, you get deposit of iron, like iron, excess of iron in our system, and we get the iron deposit in our liver, in our heart, kidneys. So those organs end up being damaged to the point where we need transplant. And I know if you individual living with sickle cell that went to the process of having their liver um, like damaged to the point that they needed a liver transplant. I've seen kidney transplant, liver transplant, and also some people get affected by heart.
Mm,
For the heart one, I know it's very difficult because it's to the point where it's a life and death experience. So it's very hard to be able to get a heart transplant. Like you've been through that yourself. Like with all the organs, you know how difficult the process is. And I think one of the things that we could do to help change the stigma and help seeing things differently is to show the process, maybe to show like how um like yes, it's a difficult process, but if it were to happen to somebody, like make it personal. If it were to happen to somebody like you or in your family, you would want to do something about it. And at the
exactly.
end of the day, this is our call to action. It's like there's something that you can do about it.
Yes.
For me, it's donate blood. If you can
Hmm.
donate blood, you can help me tremendously.
Of course.
For somebody else that have issue with like different organs, and we talk about like living organ donation. So you could give an org or part of an organ,
Hmm.
even though like you're alive and the person is alive. It
Hmm.
doesn't have to go to the point where you die to be able to give a transplant,
Yes.
to give an organ. Sorry. So
Hmm.
yeah, so those are the things that I think our community needs to understand, so that
Hmm.
we can change that. The quality of life of other people, because it's a gift of a second chance in a sense,
Hmm.
right?
Agreed. 100%. Ulysses, you seem very knowledgeable in this whole arena, and I know once you have something, you dive into it and you try to learn more about it. And I know I did that before my situation. I had no clue about kidney disease. I heard about it. I had no clue about lupus. I heard about it, but I dove into it once I found out that was me. So tell me, what is it that you've done to bring yourself to this knowledgeable state where you know how to handle your meds, how to avoid crises, what sickle cell is, the sickle shape, everything that you've just said is just so
Mhm.
knowledgeable. What did you do to
Well,
educate yourself and get yourself to this space?
I think for me, what was like a blessing is the person that diagnosed me, Dr. Yvette Boni. She looked at me as a son, and
Okay.
she was like a second mother to me. So I was in the hospital growing up. So like I see her like on a regular basis. So the hospital was like my second home,
Mm,
and through her, um, she made me understand something, because she came to me when I was 10 years old, and she was asking me if I can be like a subject for a class of
hmm.
future doctors, to know what sickle cell is and how it affects a patient, how it manifests, what does it look like, what does an individual that have sickle cell look like, etc. And she said that she was having challenges finding people to volunteer to do that.
Hmm.
And she came to me and asked me like, I know you speak very well, I know you can do a good job, I believe in you, you can do it. And she says like, if not you, who else?
Yeah.
So
And how
when
old were
she
you at
put,
this point?
I was 10.
10 years
So
old.
yeah, so
Wow.
when she put that in me like that, and it's like it made me like start to being involved. And afterward, like I volunteer with a sickle cell organization back then. And so I started volunteering at the age of 12, and then I've been involved in the sickle cell community since. So now I'm the president of the Sickle Cell Association of Ontario. So, and also like it affected me like on a personal level, where I lost two
Hmm.
siblings,
Hmm.
older sister and my younger brother. My younger brother passed away when he was 23,
Wow.
and so I went through the experience of having to do CPR and try to revive him, and
Mm.
going through that you know traumatical event. It made me wanted to do more, because I felt like I was more sick than he was, and
Mm-hmm.
for him to pass away and for me to be there, I feel like, it's like every day above ground is a good day, but also
Mm-hmm.
every day above ground is like I need to do something to make
Yes.
sure that sickle cell disease is been viewed to the, like, on the mainstream level the same
Mm-hmm.
way like other diseases are being viewed.
Of
And
course.
like there's a lot of work that needs to be done,
Mm-hmm.
and it has to be, nothing can happen for us without us, so we have to be involved. So if you want things to change, we need to be able to be present, and
Yeah.
and put our voice out, like, what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and speak on behalf of the entire community, because there's some
Yes.
people that not able to speak as well as I can, and there's some
Mm-hmm.
people that are maybe shy, or for whatever reason they don't want to put themselves out there. But if nobody does that, nothing will change. So
Exactly.
when I was able to channel that concept, it made me, like, being, like, fearless, and just being out there and try to do whatever I can, get the information for myself. So because at the end of the day, there's no cure for sickle cell at this point, and
Mm-hmm.
especially, like, at my age, like, there's a lot of damage that's been done in my body, so there's a lot of things that's not reversible.
Mm-hmm.
There's research that's being done to find a cure, but this is something that can affect, like, the next generation. And
Yes.
I want to be able to leave a mark and leave that legacy where the next generation don't have to go to the things that I went through when I was growing up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, you, like I said, you sound very knowledgeable. You've educated me a lot. You've educated me greatly. I'm sorry you had to go through that with your brother, that you had to experience that firsthand. But I'm happy you're taking all this knowledge that you have and you're trying to educate others and make it better for the generations to come, because that's very commendable. It's very commendable. And you started at 10 on
Yeah.
top of that. So that's amazing. That's amazing.
Okay.
Ulysses, you seem so knowledgeable, and you've just educated me a lot. So I know you just alluded to different things that you've taken part in, and different committees, and just this different ways of educating others about sickle cell. What else have you started? What else have you taken part in to spread the knowledge and just try to make a difference? Like, I know we're both in the same committee as well, so let's kind of dive into that.
Yeah. Well, like I was saying, like, to you, like, since I was 10, I've been involved, like, in educating doctors and nurses about sickle cell disease. And at the age of 12, I became involved with the Canadian Sickle Cell Society in Montreal. And then I moved to Toronto, and I was involved with the Sickle Cell Association of Ontario. I became a board member, and now I'm presently the president of the Sickle Cell Association of Ontario. I'm also involved with the Sickle Cell Community Consortium in the United States. I'm
Wow.
involved with the Black Health Alliance that connected me with the ACB committee that we are part of,
Mm-hmm.
to educate people about living organ donation. Um, and yeah, so whatever it is I can do to help, educate, for myself, you know, um, being able to learn something, and being able to, there's this African proverb, each one teach three.
Mm.
So if I'm able to touch, three lives by teaching something that help them, help their life be better, we all good for it. So
Mm-hmm.
I think being involved in our community, in the issues that affect our community, and like, if we're not at the table, we're on the menu. So
Mm-hmm.
it's important for us to be at the table for issues that are important to us, so
Mm-hmm.
that we can change things that we don't like, and also that we can create an impact.
I couldn't have said that better myself. If we're not at the table, we're on the menu. I like that. Now, here's another serious question for you. With everything that you're doing, when do you find the time to sleep?
Well, that's a good one. Um,
Yeah.
I literally that's always been difficult. Honestly, like, I think, you know s- suffering, like, from a, like, chronic condition, it makes it makes it difficult to sleep at night,
Mm.
for multiple reasons, whether like being in so much pain, like I can't sleep, like I need something to distract me. I'll watch sports or TV, or listen to whether it's a podcast or music or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that will take in terms of like time for sleep. But
Mm-hmm.
often it's usually when I'm not well that I'm able to sleep, because like I need to take something to literally
Gotcha.
help me sleep. So at that point it's usually when I'm not well that
Mm-hmm.
I'll be sleeping a lot. But
Okay.
whenever I'm feeling okay to, even when I'm not feeling well, but I can still push myself to a certain level, because there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and
Of course.
we have to do whatever we can to leave something better for the next generation.
Agreed. Agreed. I want to talk about your support system. Tell me about your support system because you're going through a lot. You've experienced a lot. You're, taking your time to educate others. You just mentioned that sleep is kind of here and there in between whenever you get a chance, and tell me about your support system. Who do you turn to whenever you just want to just scream? Who do you turn to whenever you're just so frustrated, or you want to share good news and say, "Hey, guess what?" Da, 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 like who's your support system?
Well, my family has been very like tremendous, but being like the I would say like the backbone, like what's keeping me like sane, and what's keeping me
Mm.
like motivated. um my mom and my dad are a good example of like people of strength that went through tremendous like trauma and difficult time, and
Mhm.
still they're still pushing and they're still fighting. So and also like it's in my name, like my name, like Ulysse is a Greek god, guerrier means warrior. So like it's a combination, like I literally embody my name. And
Mhm.
having like the support of my family, friends, like I have a huge network of people that are um that I you know created, like kind of a relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's acquaintance, like there's people that I can always turn to be able to find support and find help, and being vulnerable, like whether it's a
Mhm.
partner or etc. So it's important, especially like for individual like us to have a good support system, people that you can turn to, especially like the days that you
Definitely.
you don't have it in you to fight. And as an example, like going to hospital, and sometimes like we need somebody to advocate on our behalf and things like that. So like I have like family and friends, and people like close to me that can advocate on my behalf when those days that
Yes.
I literally have no voice, because there's times
Mm.
that we can't talk, like we literally in a level of pain that is it's very hard for people to comprehend, because it's not something that I'll give you an example. For anybody that especially for females that give birth to a child, I have women that have sickle cell that will tell you that having childbirth, that pain was nothing compared to a sickle cell crisis pain.
Oh.
So if that can give you like a visual of like
Mhm.
the amount of pain that we can go through,
Mhm.
that's one way. Other people say like going through cancer in terminal phase, that type of pain seems to people seems to connect with that, and our pain is worse than that kind of pain. So it kind of gives you like a visual of the amount of pain that we go through, and that's the reason I'm saying like there's times that I literally have no voice. I cannot even speak for myself, because like
Mhm.
the pain is so tremendous. Having that support system is very important, because they're able to be the voice for me when I'm not able to have one.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's what I do for other people when I'm in that situation, that I can advocate for somebody else.
Well, I commend you, Ulysses, for everything that you're doing. Hats off to you for wearing multiple hats and everything that you've taken the time, that to educate and just basically raise awareness about sickle cell, for coming on the show and raising awareness and help educating not only me about it, but educating others that are watching the show at this moment. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this because you're a busy man. I know you're a busy man,
Thank you.
and
One shameless plug, if I can.
of course, definitely.
Um, June 19 is World Sickle Cell Day. Okay, well, it
Mm.
just passed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why we're doing this show today, it's to commemorate June 19th was Sickle Cell Day, and it's to talk about sickle cell. So we are part of. I'm also part of the Canadian Sickle Cell Association, the Sickle Cell Association of Canada.
Mm-hmm.
We are partnered with an organization that have water. It's called Produate.
Okay.
We have alkaline water that they sell, and part of the proceed on every case that they sell, $5 goes to the Sickle Cell Association of Canada. That's the
That's amazing.
Sickle Farms Canada. You can buy the that water. You can order it from Amazon, and they'll
Mm-hmm.
deliver it to you. I know some Walmart carry it. I don't know which other store carry it. So that's the reason why I will direct people to buy it directly to Amazon. So
Could you
it's
bring it a little bit closer to the camera?
sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay. Perfect.
Full rate.
Perfect.
So the icon there, the Jennen on the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a creation. It's like a superhero that was created by a family of individual living with sickle cell. So this
Mm.
family have 3 boys, and I think 2 of the 3 boys have sickle cell disease, and they created this story to help basically, like, encourage other young children going to sickle cell disease, to let them know that not looking at sickle cell as something that is negative, and to look
Mm-hmm.
at it as something like this is your superpower. you
Yes.
are you are an individual that is super, like, sensitive in a way where our body tells us a lot of information that
Mm-hmm.
regular folks don't get. So the story also, like, it's to keep, like, their children um, entertained, and keeping them distracted, so that they can go through the pain,
Mm-hmm.
so that they can find some kind of solace through that.
And
And
help keep it positive as well,
yes,
right?
exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
also give, like, that positive image of, young black children that have, like, some kind of superpower to help fight this disease.
I
So
love it. That's a
yeah.
great idea.
So the link will be in the description below, and
Yes.
you guys can order this water. It's alkaline water. It's good for individual that have sickle cell. It's good for everybody, but
Yes.
it helps oxygenate the your blood. So that's what
Mm-hmm.
alkaline water does.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
And
Thank you.
it's an organization that gives back to the community. So
Yes.
it's good that I'm able to promote that. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Of course. I'm glad you took the time to join us here today. And that actually leads nicely into my nugget of knowledge. Every episode, I try to share a nugget of knowledge. And today's is courage is knowing your self-worth. And I think that's the epitome of you, because your self-worth is ridiculously high. And you take your courage and your knowledge and you share it with everyone. And you're doing an amazing job. Like, regardless of what ups, downs, you're still taking the time to go ahead and share. I can't see you being upset. Like, every time I see you, you're always smiling. I don't know if you're, going through an up or a down day, but you look great. You look healthy. And I just wish you all the best, and continue, doing what you're doing, Ulysses, because you're making a difference. You're definitely making a difference.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And thank you for joining us today on the Green Table Talk. Take care. Bye-bye.